And it took way longer than I thought. Hi, hello, and welcome. Oof, I know I made it sound like I was gonna be right back, didn't I? And that was the initial plan, but then I got hungry and I was like, well, what can I eat real quick? And so I found a can of some chicken and sausage gumbo, and I was gonna make some rice, but I made some rice like the night before last. And I thought the LED on the rice cooker had burnt out, but apparently the whole thing done burnt out. So it took me way longer to do it than I thought. And then I put a little bit of, I think a little too much, but some turmeric and some crushed chili pepper flakes and the rice and the chicken sausage gumbo. And then I just started sweating. I thought it was my brother room because it's a little hot back there, but it might have been the food on. Okay, so anyway, a lot of that is unrelated to what we're actually looking at today. So today we're looking at the heart chakra. We've already done the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We've done the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, more or less. And we're looking at more integrated energy versus less integrated energy. And a lot of times, the less integrated energy seems to read as maybe something that we thought worked in the past. Honestly, that's kind of sort of what it feels like. Excuse me, it kind of sort of reads as things that sort of would have worked before. I'm gonna pop one of these icebreakers. My stomach is kind of full because it was a lot. A lot of rice. And so what I did was, we have the heart chakra here. It's number 20. If I can remember, it is receptivity, generosity, and mistrusting when it's out of balance. So for receptivity, I looked for the Sovereign of Cups, the Queen of Cups, because she's the most sort of intuitive card outside of the High Priestess. She's also the most receptive. So right, I went with the like a spiritual, and I got some emotional receptivity. Wait, but could emotional receptivity have been the King of Cups too? The Cups, girl. We went for the Cups, and we went for the Queen because she's the feminine and therefore more receptive, stereotypically, typically. And then for the generosity, I went for the Six of Coins. But I went for the Six of Coins because in that energy of like giving from your overflow freely and without expectation of reciprocation, right? Because we have enough that we don't really need anything in exchange for it. And then for mistrusting, I went with the Moon card. And originally I was going to go with the Seven of Swords for mistrusting as a sort of like, when we don't trust others, sometimes we miss out on opportunities. And when we don't trust opportunities, sometimes we miss out on opportunities. And kind of sort of to show the detriment of what mistrusting can do, I guess. But I couldn't think of generosity outside of the Six of Coins. So I ended up switching the minor from mistrusting to generosity, and then I went for a major with mistrusting, and we went with the Moon card. So everything's already on the table. Today we're actually mixing it up. So we have dark, light, dark as more aligned, and light, dark, light as less aligned. Excuse me. And the reason why I did this is because unlike, let's say, the sacral and the solar, or the throat and the third eye, or even the crown to a certain extent, I feel like some of those are more coded to being receptive or transmittive, right? Like with the solar plexus, it's like what you do, right? And with the throat, it's like what you say. But with the sacral, it's more internal, right? And with the third eye, it would also be more internal, because we're not necessarily acting from that space. We're more so perceiving something or receiving the vision. I don't know. Anyway, it's a mix of both masculine and feminine, receptive and transmittive. And I use the clues or the keywords to sort of guide which would be which. So with the darker one, I went receptive because receptive is our ability to take something, right? And the more light you take, the darker the color. With generosity, it's about giving. And the more you give, the more light you give, the closer to white, the lighter the color. And it's not necessarily a matter of intensity. It's about giving and receiving from every band on the spectrum, right? Because the thing, yeah, it's about every band on the spectrum and not necessarily the intensity of one light. And then for mistrusting, that's where I was kind of sort of torn between feminine and masculine. But at the end of the day, we went alternating. I could have pulled one card from each. I didn't even think about that until now. But I ended up going alternating. And so that's it. Now we're going to get into this. I'm going to straighten up my posture a little bit. I'm going to open up the book to page, or whatever page number 20 is on. And we're going to get into this. Excuse me. Oh, almost dropped the book. The Heart Portal, number 20. Let's see. The image connected with pink-green color ray. So the celestial interpretation here is unconditional love is at the core of the heart portal. The heart holds the capacity to abundantly give to yourself and others, while also being able to freely receive. That's why we're going light and dark. It's about giving and receiving. I lost my place, y'all. Sorry. 1 second. The opportunity exists to keep a perfect balance between both giving and receiving. Your soul is pure light, love, and radiantly beautiful. Be open and receptive to loving from your true soul, and this will take you on a journey to the endless bliss beyond limitations. You are being asked, the oracle interpretation is, you are being asked to remain receptive and open-hearted right now. Perhaps your situation is challenging you to be more loving to yourself or others. Your soul wants to blossom and flower. If you have been hurt and have been withholding your love, it's time to release the pain and open up to love again. Allow yourself to overflow with unconditional divine love. Allow others that are supportive of you into your heart. The companion crystals are rose quartz and rhodonite. The companion essential oil is girl. We don't know how to pronounce her. Lang Lang or Alang. We'll see. I'll Google it. Clorinda, I thought that was you. I looked over and I saw that little icon. I said, is that Clorinda? It is. Hi, Clorinda. Hello. How are you? How you been? I was thinking about you. I've been thinking about you. You came to my mind. Oof. Still sweating. And it wasn't even that hot. I don't know why I'm sweating so much from it. But I'm going to type this in and see if we can get Google to pronounce it. Because I've never heard of this. It looked like a banana, like a dried up banana, like a banana peel. Kananga odorata, known as the kananga tree, is a tropical tree that is native to India. Oh, okay. Through parts of Indochina, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia to Queensland, Australia. Oh, snap. Speaking of Queensland, Australia, we got Clorinda in the house. Wait. It smells lovely. See, you already know what it is. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it Lang Lang or Ylang? Yeah, I know. Like, there's a lot going on right now for a lot of people. So, um, you know, it's this. It looked like banana peels, just like dangling or something. I love it. The second time, oof, I'm not gonna try to repeat it. But that's the companion essential oil for this heart chakra. So I guess, if you have the ability to get some ylang ylang, I don't know how, I just tried again, didn't I? Didn't even realize I did. Then maybe work with that. Also, rose quartz and rhodonite. I don't think I've ever heard rhodonite for the heart, but also I don't know a lot of crystals, so I almost grabbed. You know what? We're gonna do it, and we're gonna put her right here at the center. There's my little rose quartz, the quartz of rose. Okay, so we're actually gonna start over here first, and then come over here. So lesser aligned receptivity for the heart is death and the ruler of swords. What? What? This is so interesting. One interesting thing to note about this ruler of swords is that typically with a king, or okay, it's not usually the king. Typically with the ace of swords, the sword is pointed up and the crown is falling down onto the sword. But here, the sword is pointed down and it's going through the crown. So there's a change in directionality. Wait, what? I said it right again. Okay. It just don't feel right coming off of my tongue. Wait, what's happening? Okay. So but we have transformation and this King of Swords. There's a thing about directionality here. There's these large butterfly wings, and wings in this deck are swift movement, youthful energy, and innocence, I believe. There's this crown. There's a third eye with a crescent moon on top, more wings. This is the King of Swords. There are more crescent moons, but the crown low key is kind of sort of giving me more of a feminine vibe. And then we have this death card. So the immediate thing that this is, it's giving me the energy of needing to twist a story in order to kind of sort of like make something work. Because I'm looking at this, and we have these two, what I'm assuming are snakes, entwined, tangled up upon each other. There you go. Both going for that single thing up there. And I believe it's a rose, and roses are symbolic of love. And this is like someone going through like mental obstacles. Oh yeah, definitely the King of Swords. I know, right? This is so interesting. There's like this mental acrobatics, I feel like that's been going on. And this crown, since it stood out to me, let's try to dig into this. So, the Ace of Swords is us receiving insight from the divine. You can relate to that. The Ace of Swords is us receiving insight from the divine, right? It's like brand new information, a new way of thinking or looking at something. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the divine all the time, but it's like a new way of, it's like new information. And so our sword is pointed up, and then the crown falls down upon the sword. And what I like to do is, like, depending on where the sword, or depending on where the crown sits on the sword, sometimes I can feel it as like either how much we've integrated that information or how ready we are to accept and integrate that information. But with this being pointed downward, I just saw it. Now I can't find it. Here we go. With this being pointed downwards, I don't even know if y'all can see these, but it's like at rest, right? Upright is ready to fight, pointing down is at rest. Okay, so this is like it's being fixed, and this is fixed air energy. It's Aquarian. We also have 3 triangles pointing up, very faintly behind the sword. And so that's like masculine within masculine within masculine. Also, it's giving me vibes from, it's giving me like flame, like the flame card in the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. And so with this being pointed downward, it's about being at rest. So maybe there's information that I don't think it aligns with the story. Okay. And I think that's what's all this mental acrobatics is. I feel like we're being called to open up our hearts again, but we don't feel comfortable doing that because of the experiences that we had in the past with certain people when it comes to an open heart. And that's why this sword is pointed down instead of it being pointed upwards, like ready to receive. But since this energy is, since it's pointing down, there's no way to perceive anything outside of what you already know. It's like someone is staking their claim in the ground. And again, there's this element of mental acrobatics with this death card and how they sort of wrap around themselves, both sort of chasing the same thing, which is love, acceptance, whatever. But when you hold on to something, you don't allow yourself the opportunity to pick up something new. And when you're running the same, it's like when you're so deep in your own defense mechanisms that you can't recognize something good or different when it comes. And again, it goes back to the rose tinted glasses sort of thing I was talking about before, and the video that ended up being like almost 2 hours long, just pulling these cards out. But it's like, again, there's something that you're not allowing to see as it is. And that's the thing about the energy that we're coming into, I feel. Like we've done a lot and we've adapted in a lot of ways to survive in the energetic climate that we were living in. And now we're moving into an energy that's lighter, it's fluffier, it's happier, it's less dense, and it leaves us open to experiencing more in a more readily available way than we were experiencing in the past. And again, it goes back to that energy that I was talking about January, February, March, February, maybe, like the page 2.0 and the Kings and Queens 1.0. That if you're so fixed in how things ran in an old energy, if you don't adapt and change with the energy, if you don't adapt and change with the times, you're going to be missing out on a lot of things that you feel in your vibrational field because you are within the vicinity of it, but it requires you to approach it in a different way than you approached other energies in the past. And if you approach it the same way you approach the old stuff, you're not going to get it. It feels very Tantalus when he was like standing in the pool of water, dying of thirst. But whenever he bent down to, put some of the water in a cup so he can drink it, then the water would flee from him. And I don't remember why he got punished that way. But it's very Tantalus energy, right? You'd be happy to have those happenings now, right? Wouldn't a lot of us? But it's almost like you're getting prepared for it. And that's another thing that came out earlier today too, is that there are these things that we're getting prepared for before they actually happen. But if we don't make the preparation for them, then we delay the time that they can come in. And it's this very interesting, like that hanged one into the high sage energy of knowing what you have coming for you doing what you know you need to do in the moment and not needing that immediate sort of confirmation, that immediate fulfillment to know that you're doing it. It's like we're being prepared for things in ways that we don't even recognize right now. And but that's the thing about this energy is like it may be asking us to do things that would make us vulnerable and maybe in some ways that we were taken advantage of in the past. But it's like if you can going back to this and I didn't talk about it here. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just go with me or you can check out the previous video. Yeah. Either or. But it's like we have this blue cassette of the old world and we have this green cassette of the new world. And we have this, where did my remote go? Oh, here it is. We have this controller that symbolizes our linear experience. And so it's like time lived time is linear, but the concept of time is cyclic and quantum. And so this is our linear experience, right? And let's say along the rose quartz is when we come into this new energy. And so here's us in the old timeline, everything that we picked up, how we know how to survive. And again, this thing is like rolling along this. So this is constantly moving, and then these are also moving. This is like doing this out here somewhere where you can't see it. This is us learning to adapt to all these things. And now we're at the center point. And in the center point, we're being asked to sort of jump and to switch. But it happens in like very small ways. And these ways where we're like kind of sort of constantly going back and forth as we're moving. And then we're being asked to make the full transition to the green one by the time we reach the border of this sort of gateway pathway, right? But it's like there are ways that you've learned to live on the blue cassette that will actually hinder you on the green cassette because the energy is so much lighter. But with your linear lived experiences, it's like as long as you've integrated the lessons, you don't have to worry about repeating them. But honestly, if you think about it, it's like if your self-love is where it needs to be, then you like there are certain things that you naturally wouldn't do anyway, right? There are certain things that you wouldn't allow people to do to you anyway. And so it's like you can keep all of the growth and all of the progress without necessarily keeping whatever this defense mechanism is that would make you or have you twist and contort yourself to perceive of a situation in a certain way. Oof. So now we're coming to more aligned heart energy, and we have the Seeker of Swords and the Sovereign of Coins. We saw the Sovereign of Coins yesterday. Maybe not. Actually, we ain't seen her in a minute. I don't know why. I'm like, I think we've seen the Sovereign of Coins. So we got two courts over here, and then we have a court and a major over here. Here we have the Seeker of Swords. And I actually love the Seeker of Swords because, again, the Seeker is the page. And what did I just say about the pages 2.0 versus the Kings and Queens 1.0? And let's see how this is oriented. So this sword is also pointing down. But it looks like there's a bird along this sword. You want to know what's interesting? Okay, so I'm going to have to go looking for it. Here we go. Let's see. This is the Seeker of Swords. Can y'all see that bird on the sword? Keep that bird in mind because I'm about to go. Oh, I didn't even go. So at the bottom of the Oracle deck, we have Forgiveness, which is number 16. Forgiveness is redemption, rebirth, and regeneration. Rebirth with a death card. Forgiveness for the heart portal. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, love it. At the bottom of the darker deck, we have the sun. Here comes the sun, right? And at the bottom of the lighter deck, we have the Three of Coins. Oops. 3 of coins at the bottom of the lighter deck. I see the 3 of coins in this deck so much, I feel. And note there is a compass down there, like a drawing compass. And a drawing compass is something used to create a more perfect circle, and it'd be easier to like encircle something with it. So now I'm gonna get to why I'm coming over here. This may take me a second. Watch this card be like at the bottom. Oh, it's right here. Thank you. Because there's another card with the bird on the sword, and it's this card. Let's see. There we go. The 3 of Swords. It has a bird that is like stitched together, impaled by the other 2 swords. But in this card, it's hilt at the bottom. So the sword, the point of the sword is at the crown of the bird, right? This deck sometimes, y'all, let me not complain. The point of the sword is the crown of the bird. Anyway, the bird is like laying on the sword, impaled on the 3 of Swords. But with the Ace of Swords, we have, or with the Seeker of Swords, the crown of the bird is facing the hilt of the sword. And it's actually flying in that direction. So there's something about this energy already that's very counterintuitive. There we go. There's something about this that's counterintuitive, because it's like over here we have the sword impaling the crown. Over here we have the bird flying from point to hilt. This is like rapid, it's rapid, not release. Rapid release is what's coming to my mind, but it's not. Rapid release isn't the word I'm looking for. It's, what is it? I don't know. It's rapid integration. It's like a more rapid integration. Because this bird is like actively flying towards the point. Now, if the bird is us, because, you know, the 3 of Swords also had a bird, then this is about, oh, and I love this. Because okay, so this is about us, again, like I was saying, seeing the things in the past. It's like learning the lessons from the past, healing it, integrating it, and then releasing it, so that we don't necessarily have to pick up on the toxic patterns. What we learned from the past is how to love ourselves. And that's what we take from the past. What we learned from the past is how to love ourselves, and that's what we take from the past. And so we look at these past heartbreak situations and we say, and that, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this remote, and it's like literally right here. It's the remote for my Fire Stick. So sorry, I just saw it. So it's like we think back on these situations that we were we think back on these situations that we were in the past, and we look at the situation, and it's like, if I loved myself more, or if I loved myself then as I love myself now, if you've done some self-love, would I stay in that space for as long as I was in that space? Would I think of myself the way that that situation made me think of myself? Like, how deep into that situation would I have gone? And I think that's what it has the potential to do for us. And then with this Sovereign of Coins, the Queen of Coins energy, I think this is about being more, what's the word? Patient with the self, compassionate with the self, maybe some self-forgiveness, right? Because sentiments like, oh, I'm dumb for getting involved in this, and I'm stupid for letting whatever happen, and like, don't get down on yourself about things. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oof, goodness. Just take what you can moving forward. And what you're taking moving forward is learning how to love yourself. And then when you show up to that with that mindset, you open yourself up to more and more of the green cassette instead of the blue cassette. It's almost like one of the caveats for entry, or one of the central themes in this green cassette, is self-love. And because you come into an increased amount of self-love, there are certain experiences that you don't have to worry about, because I don't want to say that, like, when you love yourself, you don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of or whatever, because I don't want to necessarily like fall into whatever. But when you love yourself more, it does give you a different perspective on certain situations and how people treat you and what you allow yourself to go through. Because I feel like when you fully step into self-love, there comes a certain point in time when you're like, no, I love myself too much for this. Just like, if you love somebody else, if you truly love somebody else, and not that sort of toxic, sometimes love, that, not that abusive, whatever mess, but like, if you truly love somebody else, I feel like there would be compassion, there would be patience, there would be an attempt at understanding. And that's what we need to have for ourselves. And when we have that for ourselves, we get the best of the best, because we don't settle for less. Goodness. My tongue always trying to get twisted and tied. So there's this coin here with two hands around it, a single rose blossoming out, and a crown of crystal crown, crystal and laurel, or whatever. And I actually love this because this is giving me energy of, there it is. It's giving me energy of the Six of Coins, the Six of Pentacles. It's like one hand is giving, you can get it in there. There we go. One hand is giving and the other hand is receiving. Both of the hands are around that coin. It's like they're both participating. But that participation only happens when you are receptive to it, when you're open to it. And that's the thing about the Seeker of Swords. I think the Seeker of Swords is the only court energy in the Suit of Swords that's brave enough to say, you know what, I know that like this is what it was in the past, but I'm wondering if it could be like different now. And I actually love this coming out today, because when I did the reading on the Legacy channel for August, it's like August kind of sort of felt like more of the same energy. And that's not what I wanted. Like, I wanted it to be lit. But I remember at the end of it, it's like, it's not the world that's changed, it's you. And it is the world, but it's like, if you don't change with it, you're going to keep yourself on this old cassette. You change enough to swap out the cassettes that you're sort of playing, right? Oh, look, this one is, it's green, it's the heart. And this one is blue. This is a lightest blue. I said that's like third eye, right? So this would be the old way of perceiving the world, and this is a heart-based perception of the world. Because when you perceive things from the heart, it's actually kind of sort of a little truer in some ways. And it gives you the ability to be realistic and optimistic at the same time. Maybe. So that's what we have for receptivity. Over here, it's like you can't truly be receptive to anything because you already sort of like file it away as it's happening, right? So you don't give a situation or a person or an opportunity the ability to present itself as it actually is, because from the moment it steps onto the scene, your precognitions and your filters sort of kick into overdrive. And that's this mental acrobatics that keeps you tangled upon yourself. And it's like, another thing, it's like neither one of these heads can actually reach that rose. There we go. Neither one of those heads can reach the rose because they're so tangled up and twisted up and tied up on each other. It's like if they'll loosen themselves up a little bit from all of that chaos, then maybe they'd have enough neck or body left to stretch out a little bit further to claim that rose. But they don't necessarily allow themselves to. It's just like that the scene in Hercules, I think it was with the Hydra, Disney's Hercules, where it was like he was doing all this like bobbing and weaving between the Hydra heads, and some of them were like being tied up within each other, and then it was like trying to snap at him. Or maybe that was something else. No, that could have been something else. But it's very much so one of those movies or scenes where there's like a snake, right? And then there's a person who's trying not to get eaten by the snake. And basically what they do is through this complex series of movement, they get the snake to tie itself into a knot so that it can't like move any further. And I think this is what you're doing to yourself. Whereas over here with the Seeker of Swords, it's the vulnerability, and we're talking about receptivity of being open to and experiencing something brand new. It involves a certain element of curiosity. And with that Sovereign of Coins, it also involves an element of nurturing and a real, maybe capacity. It's about holding space for something in love, but not in a Sovereign of Cups way. Because I feel like the Sovereign of Cups is kind of, that Queen of Cups energy is kind of sort of this over here. Because then that could be emotional and mental acrobatics to discredit the self in order to appease someone else. But with the Queen of Pentacles energy, it's like, you know, I care for you, but to a certain extent, right? I'm not going to be so selfless to the point where I give away my entire fortune and my stability, because at the end of the day, if I don't have anything to give, then I can't give anything. And so there's an element of self-care and being open to something brand new over here. What is interesting to note, though, is that we're talking about the heart portal, and then we get the King of Swords, or the Queen of Swords. No, was that the Queen? No, it was the ruler, right? This is the ruler? Yeah, the ruler, the King of Swords, and the Page of Swords energy. So it's very heady when we're talking about being receptive. But maybe that's the issue. And I think that is the issue. There's too much logic involved. And logic is fine, but a lot of times logic is based off of previous experiences. And if you operate within the space of previous experience, you're going to limit the new that you can sort of get to. So next, we're getting into the generosity. So lesser aligned generosity. I mean, at the end of the day, if you ain't open to receive, you probably ain't even open to give much. Or I mean, I guess some people are takers and they don't give anything back. Here we go, another sword. Did we not see this combination of cards yesterday, or was it something else? No, I think it was Justice and the Three of Pentacles. And then the Eight of Pentacles or the Eight of Cups came out with something. Maybe we did see this combination yesterday. What did I even do yesterday? Or when did I do the solar plexus? No, it would have been when we saw, I think we may have seen Justice and the Eight of Cups together before. I think it might have been on the solar plexus. Justice and the Eight of Cups. There we go. We can get them up here. There we go. Justice and the Eight of Cups being lesser aligned generosity. Swords and eyeballs is a theme already. Is there going to be a sword in all of these? So there are two crescent moons. There's a crystal hilt on this sword and a crescent pommel stone. This one is pointed upwards, though, which is interesting because the other ones have been pointed downwards. And then another thing that's interesting is, I don't know if y'all can see it, but with this ruler of swords, there are these like little triangles. You see it? Kinda. Very faint. There are three triangles pointed upwards, which is the element of fire or masculine. And in this Eight of Cups, there's the same upward pointing triangle. which is that element of fire and water, masculine. So you can see it better over here. There we go. There we go. Look at that. And so, what does that mean, Patrick? Okay, it's a triangle. You say it's the element of fire. All right. What does that mean? Fire is about expression, right? So we have the Eight of Cups with the element of fire, and then a third eye that is shining, and this Justice card, also with the third eye. Something about this energy, though, is slightly off. And I say it's slightly off because the eye on this Justice card is not placed at the cross section of the sword and the scales. The eye is actually above it. Let's see. Okay. Y'all see that? It's like the eye is actually above it instead of being in line with it. I think, and this is very interesting, it's an energy of overgiving. It's an energy of giving too much to situations and circumstances and people that don't deserve what you're giving. And when you don't have healthy boundaries, and again, it could be related to this in the sense of, because here we sort of have this fixed point of view when it comes to interacting with other people, or when it comes to operating from the heart space, or when it comes to what love is, or whatever. Excuse me. And so it could have been the situation, and I know for a lot of folks who would probably find a way here, it probably is because a lot of people who are in the cards or whatever are typically empaths. Typically. Also, there are people into the cards because, they want an advantage, the upper hand, and could be a little bit more narcissistic. Anyway, it ain't about that. This is about people who think that they have to do, people who think that they have to go above and beyond to be worthy of love and to prove their love and to find love. And with this Eight of Cups, it's like there's this energy of not wanting to walk away. Also, there could be a fear of abandonment here. There's overgiving here. It's like you think that the more you give to a situation or a person, it's like maybe it'll make them stay eventually. And it is a gift to be able to give, but anything in excess can be bad for you. And so there's actually a lack of balance within the self. There's something here that still seeks something from outside. And with this Eight of Cups here, it's like I feel like you've done a lot to sort of leave that behind. But I mean, I haven't looked at what's over here yet, but it's like maybe you need to learn how to retreat a little bit and establish some healthier boundaries. And there's also a feeling of like the love that we can't give to ourselves, we try to give to other people. And that's why we love other people so hard. It's like all of the excess love that we can't, it's not even excess though, but it's like all of the love that we can't give to ourselves, we try to give it to others and then get it back from them. But love from other people it can't take the place of love that you need to have for yourself. It's like it goes into a different account, right? It's like you have your savings and your checking and your whatever account, you have your self-love account, and then you got your others love account. And then you can break down the others into like love to others and then love from others. But no matter how much love you get from other people, if you're not putting anything into that self-love account, it's never going to have anything in it. Oof. So this energy over here is actually, it's overly generous, which is interesting. But that's the thing about chakras, right? They can be overactive, they can be underactive, and what's most important is the balance. And this isn't balanced. Oof. Yeah, I mean, it's been me. Well, kind of, sort of me. I just tried to. I was like, love, who needs it? I want to be a robot. I want to be the world's first fully organic android cyborg robot. It didn't work out for me. Um, oh my gosh! The world card came out right here. I saw the world card in this spot yesterday, and I'm pretty sure justice was somewhere around here too. I think the world and justice came out at around the same point. When it came to the solar plexus, I'm pretty sure it's when I did the solar plexus. This is interesting. In the middle, so the solar plexus, one thing that came out in the solar plexus was the need for external validation in the sense of us knowing who we are. And I guess it makes sense that it's also here in the heart. Um, and it came out, this was balancing power in the second one. And I remember saying that, like, if you heal and integrate your own shadow, if you know your light and your dark, then you can kind of sort of temper, mediate, and balance between the two. But yeah, the Eight of Cups did come out here because I was like, that could be somebody focused purely on one side of the equation. And if you only know one side of the equation, you can't bring it into balance with the other side because you don't know what the other side is, right? If you don't know if you don't know how heavy the scale is over here, how do you know how much weight to put over here, right? And now we have generosity here. And like this is an energy of overgiving to try to get some sort of justice. Over here we have the world and the Seven of Wands. Oof. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is the opposite side. The world and the Seven of Wands. I feel like the Seven of Wands is us being in the energy of giving all that we can, but still maintaining a sort of, not a bubble, but healthy boundaries. And I say healthy boundaries because at the bottom of the card, we see five wands pointed up, reaching up towards these two. And in this deck, all of the wands are lit. But if they weren't, it's like they're trying to get a light from these two crossed wands at the top. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this. Where is it? There we go. You can kind of sort of see them. The five wands at the bottom. There we go. Five wands at the bottom. And then the two cross ones at the top, and then they got like this little glowy thing around them. Maybe I need to I need to figure this out one day. Anyway, there are two ones at the top crossed, and they're radiating. There are five ones that are pointed upwards. It's somebody trying to get a light off of you. And again, the thing about healthy boundaries is it's knowing that just like no one can give everything that you need to you, you can't give everything that someone else needs to them, right? You can't self-love into somebody else. And you can't love outside of you to tempt someone to reciprocate that love and try to transmute it into self-love. I don't mean to laugh, but even talking about it has me confused. But it makes very logical sense. Like emotionally logical. It's emotionally logical. Like if I love you and you love me and we love each other, then I shouldn't need to love myself because you love me. You have enough love for me for the both of us, and that's not always how it works. Quite often, more than not, it doesn't work. So yeah. So and then we get this world card over here that's all about those boundaries and that completion. It's also, this is interesting. So with these two crossed over here, up here, I get these two ones crossed as self-love, right? And that could be a union of the polarity within you, the masculine and the feminine in you, the light and the dark in you, the higher and the lower in you, or whatever. And the more you come into that, the greater you'll shine for others to kind of sort of want to be a part of. What is this? I don't know what that is. What is this? I'm like looking at this, trying to figure out what it is. Are these wings? Oh yeah, they're. Oh, maybe. Oh, these ones are pointed downwards. Oh, ooh, okay, 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 okay. All right. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be new for a lot of people. I wasn't looking at this before. Those are fingers. These are hands. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely about having boundaries. I feel like, and that's another thing. I feel like a lot of times when I do these more or less, it's like it's kind of sort of more or less coming from the same spot, or it's coming. It's like this is how we used to be, and this is sort of how we need to change. And all that, it's like it doesn't always seem that the less integrated side is. It doesn't always logically seem like there's anything wrong with this. Excuse me. So what I wasn't seeing is this pair of hands up here. Let's see if I can get this in camera. There's a pair of hands. Yeah, you can see them. You see that hand and then this hand, and they have these thorn bracelets on. The thorns are restrictive, and yeah, it's like, and so it's like it's limiting the amount that you can do things for other people. It's keeping you from lowering your wand to the point where they come in contact with you. The Five of Wands is also a card of conflict. The Two of Wands is a card of crossroads, right? And so it almost feels like there's this point in time where you have to fight yourself. It's probably when you're learning to set healthy boundaries, right? And when you're learning that you can't do everything for everyone, and to sometimes it's the case that we do each other a disservice when we do everything for ourselves. It's very much so the energy of someone who, and this ain't no tea, no shade, it just is what it is sometimes. It's like if you're raised in a certain environment and everything is done for you, and then you get older, since like everything was done for you, you never learn how to do anything. And so then when you exit that environment and you go somewhere else, it's like you may encounter people who'll be like, you don't know how to do this, like you don't know how to do that, blah, 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 whatever. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But it's like if you've never had to learn, you'll never know how to do it for yourself. Right. And I feel like self love, it's one of those grand things that we talk about, but there isn't necessarily. Third Eyes came out in like three of these cards, but the biggest one is actually on this world card over here. So, sorry. So it's like it's one of those things that we talk about, but we don't necessarily like know how to do it, or I feel like there isn't necessarily like a guidebook on how to love yourself your way, right? But it's something that you find in whatever way you're lacking it. And I feel like a lot of times we kind of sort of know the areas where we're lacking love, but we don't know how to give it to ourselves. And self love is, I guess, learning how to do that. Um, but there are certain boundaries that need to be observed. And that's what I'm getting like the laurel wreath around this third eye. And it's another wand. There's another wand in this card. So very fiery. Swords and wands. And a coin. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you see how big this third eye is and that wand, and then you see the like the laurel wreath frame around it. That's gonna be what really crosses us over to that green cassette. That's what's gonna be what puts us in a new world is not being overly generous. Because generosity is only generosity. I don't want to say that. Generosity turns sour for the self when we give what we don't have the capacity to get back. It's very like six of coinsy, right? Whenever you come into a six of coins in energy, the point is to give excess. It's not to give what you need to survive. And I feel like you can share resources when you're sort of running low. But the thing here is like if you're empty, if you don't give to yourself and if no one else gives to you, where does that leave you? And with this Eight of Cups, it's like that's something that we need to leave behind in the past. Also, over here, there's this energy with the Justice and this Eight of Cups. It's like we're trying to give things to people that we've never had, but and I'm getting this is more as like a parent to a child type of energy, honestly. It's like whenever you're a parent and I've talked about it before. One second. Miss E. Yeah. So I mean that's why you gotta learn to save a few pennies for yourself and invest them wisely so that they turn into more pennies. But if you gotta go, no worries. This will be up. It's like 56 minutes and 20 seconds now. Uh, but where was I going? What was I saying? Boundaries, self love, self love. I don't remember. I lost it. I'm sorry. Over here, yes. It's like the energy of a parent. It's like, well, growing up, I didn't have this, and I want to make sure my kids have this. Let's say you didn't get everything you wanted when you were a child, right? Let's say you didn't get a lot of what you wanted, and so whenever you have children, or whenever there are young ones around you, or whenever you are in the space to give to someone, you give them all of what you didn't have. But I think when you do that, you run the risk of not giving them what they want or what they need. Let's say that you grew up in a situation where you weren't super fortunate. And so now what you do for your kids is you get them a lot of stuff. But let's say you're working so hard to get them the stuff that you're not giving them any time. You're not giving them any attention or affection. And so they grow up with all the stuff, but they also grow up lacking the attention and love and affection that you could have gotten when you were a kid. It's like you got the love, you got the support, you just didn't get the stuff. And you're more focused on what you were lacking in the past than the good that you did have. And so, because you're so focused on one side, again, this is a very one sided focus energy with this Eight of Cups. And that's why this eye isn't squarely on the scale. That's why the eye is above the scale. There's something that's slightly off. You're not giving the good that you got. You're only trying to make up for the bad that you didn't. And the things that we need may be different than the things that other people need. But when you're more in tune with yourself and with your own past, you may not necessarily give enough room or space to giving what someone else actually needs, right? See ya, Clarinda. And again, that goes back to this receptivity, I feel. There's this a heavy self energy here. And the self energy, it's necessary, but it's not, I don't know, it's like it's a little too much. Because it's like after you come across self love, then it's like I said before, it's like you can run multiple at the same time, right? So I know I said like this is primarily self love, right? And this is like the old world. But there are times when you can be running this green cassette and you can switch on and switch off this blue cassette from the other side of this whole or from this linear experience. You can get both at the same time. And again, when you run both at the same time, it's different than like rapidly switching these out. Um, but that's the thing here. Because it's like when when you have that self-love, it's always running in the back. So that isn't you necessarily consciously keeping track of what you're giving to other people, but it will put you in the mindset to be checking in on you and to be caring about you. And if someone needs you, it's like, I love you and I care about you, but right now I got some stuff that I need to do for me right now. And it's not necessarily that sort of selfish energy. It may feel like a selfish energy coming from a perspective that doesn't necessarily like have that for themselves. And again, that's the thing that we have to learn here about boundaries. And that's why we can't light someone else's torch. Excuse me. That's why the thorns are around these hands so that they don't let the torches split to the point where they come in contact with these other ones. Because if someone from their lack of self-love is overly dependent on you and your love to fill that void within them, it leaves you no room to love yourself really. Because there may come moments when you need to just like take a step back for your own mental sanity, emotional well-being, or whatever. And if someone else is overly dependent on that, that's when they run into issues. And with this world card, it's like, yeah, it's time to put all that, it's time to wrap that up. And then it would be that energy that feels entitled to the love from you because it can't give it to itself, because it's come to rely overly on you. And so with generosity, I feel like generosity comes more so with the warning this time. And I actually love this for this being the heart chakra, because I feel like more often than not, we look at generosity as like, oh, I'm giving, I'm good, right? My heart is open, I'm giving, I'm good. But we also need to look at the other side, because the heart is about loving you and loving other people. And you aren't loving you if you don't give to you what you need when you need it, right? It's about having that balance. So now we're going to end this with mistrusting. And we got the title card over here. The title card is actually in reverse. And we have the Two of Coins. We got the Two of Coins. Maybe if she shows up. I'm trying to get like these coins in there. The Two of Coins in the title card. The Two of Coins is a card of balance. There's one thing, we have the coin with the tooth that sits higher than the coin with the crystal. Teeth, oh, I have the card right here. I got my little cheat sheet. Teeth symbolize wisdom and experience, right? Yeah, wisdom and experience is teeth. And then the crystal is wealth, abundance, peace of self in the physical body. So it's like we're prioritizing experience over the pieces of self in the physical body. And I feel like this goes back up to this energy when we're more sort of looking at how things sort of worked out in the past. And when we operate out of that space of how things work out in the past, we sort of leave ourselves in this state of not really being able to accept or experience anything outside of that. Because when we are mentally and emotionally fixed towards a certain way, it gets us more often than not to align with a certain outcome, right? And that's the thing about the Seeker of Swords over here. When you're open and receptive to something new, and when you have these boundaries on over giving and oversharing to the point where you can show up for other people and you show up for yourself simultaneously, then there's nothing to mistrust. There's no reason to feel, I feel like honestly this mistrusting energy comes because we are ourselves juggling whatever all of this is. It's like we're juggling too much, too many factors. And whatever alchemy we have running, whatever juggling we're doing, it's not lining up to get us to the point where we get something that we actually want. And again, it's too focused on the past. When you're focused on the past, you repeat it. But those who don't learn from their past are also doomed to repeat it. So, it's another one of those contradictions that we're learning to live with. It's not to be consumed by it, but again, it's about taking the things from the past as lessons, right? It's about getting to the place that they were directing you towards, right? It's like if I stop along the road and if I ask someone for directions, if I have a good memory, if I record what the person is saying, or if I write it down, I don't have to take that person with me, right? And so that person can now continue to go about their day and their life, and I can continue to go about mine, right? But I think sometimes it's very much that energy of, and it actually, girl, I'd be so like gullible or vulnerable or whatever sometimes. I remember one day I was a freshman in college walking home from class, and this dude in like a little minibus is like, hey, he was like, hey, can I get directions to blah, 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 wherever? And I'm like, yeah, it's just like, it's just like right back there. And he was like, oh, like, what? And I'm bad with directions anyway. Girl. I was a freshman trying to tell this man where to go. And he was like, oh, well, I'm going to be driving a bus up here full of kids tomorrow. And I want to make sure I know how to get there. So can you just like hop in the bus and show me? And of course, part of me was like, oh, I ain't trying to just hop in no random bus. Like, wasn't nobody in this bus. And it wasn't even like a bus. Um, and I was like, oh, but I was like, yeah, sure. And so I basically had him drive me in a circle and he just dropped me off where, he picked me up. And that was unintentional, but I ain't going to complain about it. Because back in the day, it's like there were one-way streets and things got like kind of weird. But anyway, where was I going with that? I can't remember where I was going with that. So maybe that fit in somewhere. It's about being, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that. We're coming back over here, and we got this Two of Pentacles, which is juggling. I feel like this mistrusting here, it's just the dissatisfaction at everything I was already saying. You can't, like, love from other people doesn't fill your tank for self-love. And it's a little bit unfair to other people and to yourself to expect that. It's not unfair to expect for someone to love you. It is unfair to expect for someone to love you so much that it replaces the love that you need to have for yourself. Because love from others isn't designed to do that. Right? It's like attracts like, right? Um, so it's like you're basically trying to make demands from a system that is built around giving you whatever you put out. You can't get more than you put out. And so if you're not putting out, like if you're not getting what you want when it comes to this heart area, there's something that you're not putting out. And when it comes to the heart, since it does work both ways, and a lot of things actually work both ways in reality, but anyway, it's like, you have to give to yourself what you want from others. Especially when it comes to self-love. I don't know, it just works that way. Right? I was talking about getting the wisdom from experiences in the past. Yeah, asking directions. That's where I was. See, my brain, like, ooh, the gears they come back. That's why I brought the thing up with the bus, right? Because first of all, I was bad at directions, and he was like, you know what, just get in the bus, right? And I get in there. He called me like Bubba or something. I low key, I didn't know what was gonna happen. I don't know why I did it, girl, but I made it out safe. Ain't nothing shady happen. Um, but that's the thing. It's like, I think sometimes it's the thing about learning the lessons from the past, but leaving the people, leaving the hurt, leaving the pain, but keeping the lesson. Knowing getting to where it's navigating you towards without needing it there to constantly remind you of that. And that's the thing, right? Because I got on the bus. Because he was like, oh, I don't know. Okay. That's where the bus came from. All right. But again, as long as this is what it is, you'll always be unbalanced, more or less. Maybe not. I don't like saying that. But you can use the love. You can use the love from other people. You can use love from other people and how it makes you feel in certain situations to know where you need to give to yourself and how you can begin to give to yourself. And you can allow that love to supplement your self-love routine until the time where you can do it more independently for yourself. Um, and like, that's fine. And then it's like, I feel like it opens you up to a world of love outside of, it opens you up to love more freely. Because now you're not trying to transmute all of that love from other people into self-love. It's almost like you're putting it in the garbage disposal because it doesn't, I don't know how effective it is. I don't know what the currency exchange rate is for that. It would take an immense amount of love from other people to get you a little bit of self-love. So once you fill up your own self-love tank, that's when you get love and overflow. That's when you get love and abundance to the point where you're radiating it outward and you're drawing in and attracting to you the abundance and the love and the fulfillment and everything else you are asking for. It's when you can fill that self-love tank of yours enough to the point where you begin to get excess. You get excess love, and excess love radiates out into the universe to make you happy and do stuff. And it's not this like juggling, trying to manage and locate resources type energy over here with this Two of Coins that you can't even see. And we got that mystery card because again, I feel like it just don't work. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry, but it just don't work. So over here we have the Three of Wands and the Three of Coins. Okay, 33 for mistrusting. The Three of Wands, I actually love this because you see the cross in the Three of Wands. Up here, we already saw in this card, these two wands crossed up here. If you can see them. Oh, you can kind of sort of see them now. The two wands are crossed at the top, and then they have 5 wands reaching up. So those 2 wands are you, and that's you having your back, you filling your own self-love tank, and you being open, even though I know the wands are crossed. But it's like, it's a closed circuit, and a closed circuit gets power. An open circuit doesn't. It's grounded within itself. You got to ground circuits too, right? And so it's like, since you're solid within yourself, now you can allow this third one to come in with the 2 on the outside being you, where you can collaborate in a way that actually builds upon your 3D physical reality with that 3 of Pentacles. This is where you reach true collaboration. And when you're in this space of true collaboration, like I said, there is no mistrust. And if there is, it's like you don't have to worry about trusting as much when you have self-love. Because like I said, there are certain situations and certain spaces that you don't allow yourself to be in because you love and you care about yourself too much. And it's not necessarily about loving and caring about yourself too much. It's like you love and you care about yourself in balance with what you put out, right? If you're not getting what you put out, either you reduce the amount that you put out or you just exit the situation in its entirety. And again, that's why you don't have to enter the space of mistrust. And since you're not in the space of mistrust, it opens you up to collaborate more freely, more deeply with other people, with other situations, and with the world and the environment around you. Again, when you have that love, when you have that self-love, it fills that tank. And then it puts you in love excess, where your excess love can begin to attract all the beautiful things that you need. So, excuse me, that's where I'm going to end this. I feel like it kind of sort of ended a little bit weird. Not weird, but it ended on an interesting note, I guess I'll say. And yeah, I kind of like that. And again, some of these are interesting. It's just interesting how they read. Right? Oops. And also, again, so we did have what? The Sun and the Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the decks. The Sun is about, I'm going to take the Sun with the more aligned energy. And the Three of Pentacles with the less aligned energy, the Three of Pentacles with the lesser aligned energy, again, is trying to do that alchemical transmutation of love from other people into self-love, and it just doesn't work. It gets you coming up in the deficit, right? It's like, if I can stay where I am and have $1 million if I can stay where I am with $1 million, or convert my currency into something else, go somewhere else where that $1 million gives me maybe 10, it's like, in that case, I'm better off where I am, right? So it's like, and again, we're assuming that it gets you the same thing, right? You can have 1 million things over here, or you can have 10 things over there. That's what happens. That's sort of the amount that you lose out on when you try to alchemize love from others into self-love. Like, it just doesn't work. That's not what it's designed to do. The others section is the other section, and the you section is the you section. There is no real sort of meeting or exchange between them, but I think there is a convergence where they both meet. And that's the thing with that Sun card. When you're giving it to yourself, you can radiate outward a lot more of what you want, more vitality, more happiness, more everything else, right? The Sun is like the happiest card in the deck, apparently. And then over here with the Three of Pentacles on the lesser aligned side, again, that's you being overly reliant on people outside of you, situations outside of you, to try to get that love in for you, and it's just not how it works. So, but again, you can sort of choose to build off of it. Ooh, with the Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck. That's what opens you up to the aciest of the Aces of Cups. Even though this Ace of Cups is like some dainty little glass. And yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're getting this shuffle in. It's like you can, excuse me, again, use it in cooperation, in tandem with, you know, love from others. You can use love from others in tandem and in cooperation with the love for yourself until you can fill that tank for yourself. But at the end of the day, that's something that you got to do for you. People can't love self-love into you. And you can't love self-love out of you by giving it to other people. So that's when sometimes you just go, wait a minute, I deserve love too. And I don't know if you're loving me right now. And then you're talking to yourself like, oh, I've been found out. I don't know. Okay. So, did not plan on pulling out, but forgiveness. I think that may be some self-forgiveness. Oh, that was quick. Okay. Word. Ooh, who is this? Magical Realms, number 28. And we got Majestic Eminence, I think that came out yesterday. Worth, Divine, Feminine, and Priestess. Priestess, Divine, Feminine, and Worth. I said those backwards. Majestic Realms, number 28. Belief, Confidence, and Co-Creative Power. I love this. To wrap it up. Belief, Confidence, and Co-Creative Power. Bottom of the deck is that Heart Portal. Because I guess, you know, I didn't get a full shuffle out before it came out. So let's see. I think I'll just flip the card on top. We have the Two of Swords. And at the bottom of the deck is the Star. It's a choice. Being happy is a choice. Going after what you want is a choice. Choosing to stay stuck is a choice. Or being stuck in the past is a choice. And I feel like there are some choices where we sort of look at, are there certain situations that we look at and we're like, well, the choice kind of makes itself. And regardless of how true or untrue that is, at the end of the day, you agree with it and you go with it, right? There are some times when we don't make the choice. There's sometimes where we feel like the choice is being made for us. But as someone who has a lot of fixed energy in their chart, particularly Taurus, I will tell you, it don't matter what other people say that they demand or expect from me. Because if I ain't giving it, I ain't giving it. And you ain't going to convince me otherwise. You ain't going to do X, Y, Z. Okay, fine, cool, whatever. I'll be fine. Ain't no skin off my bizat. Let me stop. But yeah, it's about choosing to stay focused on hope. And it's also a sort of a mental, it's not a game. you may have to wrestle with yourself mentally until you reach the point where you no longer have to wrestle with yourself. But it's about showing you who's boss. And again, going back to yesterday, it's about allowing yourselves the opportunity to reaffirm that. Top of the deck over here is the Five of Wands. Bottom of the deck again was the Ace of Cups. So I guess, yeah, it's going to be something worth fighting for. The Five of Wands. The Five of Wands in this deck is actually a pentagram, which is interesting. And there's a third eye at the heart of this pentagram. The pentagram puts the physical above the spirit. And that's why some people typically see it as bad. The pentacle puts the point at the top, which is spirit above the physical. But I think it's more so about understanding the relationship between the two of them. And so maybe it's not about necessarily putting one above or in front of the other. It's about understanding both of them as they are. And that's when you can come into this co-creative sort of power. And I love that co-creative power also came out in Magical Rounds, because in all of that pre-shuffle exposition, it was when I was talking about the Hanged One into the Priestess. I literally just forgot where I was going with that. But it was the Hangman into the Priestess, talking about how light attracts light in that dark space, and then when you get to a certain threshold, it'll spit you out, or it'll spit it out in order for you to experience. Because that's the only way that light gets weight. Because it's like light is too light to really move anything heavy. And so that's why sometimes it takes more light to do something than it would like darkness, because the element of darkness is inherently by nature more heavy. And everything on the 3D is heavy, right? And maybe that's another reason why it's a little easier for the darkness to navigate down here, because it's heavier and we're in a dense world, and it takes more light to basically have the same effect. Man, I can't remember where I was going with that. There was a Two of Swords. No, that was the Five of Wands. Fighting, putting spirit first. There may be a point in time where you gotta fight yourself mentally until that's just the situation that you was in, or that you're in, with that Two of Swords. With the Five of Wands, it's a number of change. Sometimes the change starts within us. Most of the time, the change starts within us. And if the change doesn't start in us, if the change starts outside of ourselves, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll end up finding ourselves unable to accept the change, even if it's something that we want. So, I don't know. I honestly don't remember where I was going with that. It literally just like left my brain. So I guess this is where I'm going to end this. Oh, I was talking about the previous video. Oh, I don't remember. Okay, all right. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.